The story begins with a man named Daniel. He belonged to a very poor family, and his mother had a small dream. She wanted to see the church from the courtyard of their house, but a huge banner of a perfume company called Bruley was hanging between their house and the church, blocking the view completely. Daniel believed that if he wanted to remove that banner one day, he would have to become even richer than the Bruley family. From that moment, he decided that someday he would surpass them in wealth. The scene then shifts to Daniel's closest friend, Scania. His father used to work as a truck driver for the Bruley company, but he also passed away when Scania was very young. As time passed, Daniel and Scania grew up together and promised each other that they would never work for Bruley. With that dream in mind, they started their own transportation business. Unfortunately, the business failed after some time. In the end, reality forced them to look for jobs, and ironically, they both ended up applying at the same Bruley company. There, they met the manager, Stephen. Stephen was an extremely greedy and stingy man. Before hiring them, he clearly warned them that even one mistake could cost them their jobs. After joining the company, Scania started working as a truck driver, while Daniel got a position in quality control. This allowed Daniel to learn everything about how the Bruley company operated. Bruley was mainly a distribution company that supplied expensive luxury perfumes. The very next day after Daniel joined, he learned that Mr. Bruley had died that morning. Daniel was shocked because he thought the company might collapse after the owner's death. But within a few days, Mr. Bruley's son, Patrick, officially became the new managing director of the company. Soon after that, Patrick's wife, Beatrice, gifted perfumes to all the employees to celebrate Patrick's promotion. That night, Daniel was having dinner with his family when his uncle mentioned how expensive and high in demand those perfumes were. Daniel found it strange that perfume made from flower essence and water could be sold for such huge amounts of money. Out of curiosity, he posted the gifted perfume online for sale at just 50 rupees. The moment he uploaded the listing, his phone started exploding with notifications. That was when Daniel realized this perfume was far more valuable than he had imagined. The next day at work, while looking at the perfume stock, a dangerous idea entered his mind: stealing the perfumes. He shared the plan with Scania. At first, he completely refused, but after Daniel kept convincing him, he finally agreed. Meanwhile, Patrick and his wife Beatrice were having a meeting with company officials. There, we also see a man named Bryce, who handled Bruley's online perfume distribution. However, Patrick clearly disliked him. At the same time, Daniel secretly began executing his theft plan. He filled perfume bottles inside an empty box. Then, while distracting Stephen with conversation, he quietly took the box out through the trash area and handed it over to Scania. Scania managed to leave with the perfumes without anyone noticing. After that, the two started selling the perfumes online. This continued for months, and within 6 months, they earned nearly 10,000 euros through illegal perfume sales. To celebrate their success, they went to a nightclub. There, Daniel noticed a beautiful girl named Sophia. He approached her and confidently claimed that he owned a startup that sold luxury perfumes online at discounted prices. He then tried asking Sophia to come with him, but she directly refused. One night, Daniel was working on his laptop at home when suddenly 2 police officers arrived at his house. Daniel quickly hid the laptop before opening the door. The officers questioned him about selling perfumes online. Daniel nervously explained that the perfumes were gifts from his company, and because he needed money, he sold them online. He even claimed that some of his co-workers had also given him perfumes to sell. The officers warned him that selling branded products online like this was illegal and could lead to heavy fines or even jail time. Daniel immediately promised that he would never do it again. The next day at work, Daniel suddenly saw Sophia again. He panicked, thinking he had been exposed, but then he discovered that Sophia had actually joined the company as the new HR employee. Daniel immediately went to the HR office and awkwardly explained that he had been drunk at the nightclub that night and that everything he said was meaningless nonsense. After saying this, he quickly left. One day, Daniel went to the market with his mother. There, he noticed a shop selling expensive products like watches, iPhones, iPads, and AirPods at unbelievably cheap prices. He became curious about how they were doing this. He secretly went near their car to investigate, but one of the men suddenly grabbed him and started beating him. To save himself, Daniel quickly revealed that he had access to luxury perfumes. Hearing this, the men immediately stopped. Daniel explained his business to them, and eventually, they teamed up together. Instead of selling perfumes online, Daniel now started selling them through these men in the offline market. This method was much safer and more profitable because the chances of getting caught were lower. Everything was going smoothly until one day, Stephen accidentally caught Daniel while he was delivering perfumes. Since Stephen was extremely greedy, he demanded 80% of the profits. He also threatened to report everything to the police and company management if they refused. Daniel understood that things could never work under those conditions. So one night, Daniel and his partner went to Stephen's house in complete darkness. They called him outside, brutally attacked him, and broke both of his legs. Before leaving, they warned him that if he ever spoke to the police, the consequences would be even worse. With Stephen out of the way, Daniel's illegal business expanded rapidly. The perfume supply doubled, and Daniel soon started living a luxurious lifestyle. He even bought a fancy office for the business. Meanwhile, at the Bruley office, a meeting was taking place. Sophia warned everyone that their security system was outdated and needed upgrading, but nobody listened to her. They confidently claimed that their current system was already strong enough. One night, while Patrick was talking with Beatrice, she suggested selling the company to Bryce. Patrick initially refused, but after a lot of convincing, he finally agreed. The next day, Daniel arrived at work and noticed laser scanners installed everywhere. The work he used to handle manually would now be monitored through scanners. At that moment, the field manager informed Daniel that Stephen would not return for 6 months, so Daniel would temporarily handle Stephen's responsibilities. Even though this was technically a promotion, Daniel wasn't happy at all because his new position made stealing perfumes much harder. Meanwhile, Sophia got into a heated argument with Patrick because the promotion she expected had been given to someone else. Furious, she left the office and later texted Daniel, asking him to meet her for dinner. During dinner, Sophia told Daniel everything happening inside the office. She wanted revenge against Patrick, so she eventually joined Daniel's operation. Sophia then revealed an important secret. She explained that if only 1.8% of the total inventory disappeared, the system would not detect any errors. Together, they started building a smarter plan. They secretly placed extra pieces of paper between the perfume boxes so they could easily identify the stolen stock. Using this trick, they prepared around 50 boxes of perfume while Scania handled the loading and transportation. As Daniel and Sophia became closer, their illegal business also grew bigger. Every Sunday, Daniel distributed everyone's share of money and threw wild parties. This continued for a long time, but deep down, they all knew they could get caught at any moment. Still, greed had completely consumed them, and nobody wanted to stop. Daniel then rented a massive warehouse to store all the stolen perfumes. On the other side, Patrick seemed extremely worried. He told Beatrice that while returning from signing the initial deal with Bryce the previous night, he had heard strange noises inside the warehouse. When he went inside, he discovered many empty boxes ruined by leaking rainwater. This made it obvious that someone inside the company was stealing perfume stock. When Beatrice suggested informing the police, Patrick refused. He explained that he had just signed a deal with Bryce, and if news about the missing stock leaked out, the company would suffer massive financial losses. So instead of involving the police, Patrick decided to investigate the matter personally. At this point, the story reveals a massive twist. In reality, Patrick's wife, Beatrice, was secretly cheating on him and having an affair with Bryce. She was passing all the company's confidential information to him from the inside. Beatrice even advised Bryce to use the issue of the missing stock to pressure Patrick into selling the company at a much lower price. Now that Bryce knew everything, he started playing his own game. He hired a man named Ing and gave him one mission: join the Bruley company as a fake employee and secretly investigate the missing stock. Ing soon entered the company and slowly began collecting information. During this time, he learned many things about the company's operations, but most importantly, he became suspicious of Daniel. For several days, Ing secretly watched his activities. Then, after finding the perfect opportunity, Ing approached Daniel and offered to work with him. Since Daniel's illegal business had expanded a lot and he needed extra manpower, he accepted Ing into the team without thinking twice. The scene then shifts to Patrick talking with Sophia. Patrick reveals that large-scale theft has been happening inside the company and that a huge amount of stock is missing. Sophia immediately reminds him, saying, That's exactly why I asked everyone to upgrade the security system earlier. Patrick explains that someone from inside the company is responsible for everything, and if the thief gets caught, the person responsible for finding them will receive a major promotion. Later, Sophia secretly meets Daniel and tells him everything. She warns him that they should stop immediately before things get worse. But Daniel ignores her warning completely. Meanwhile, Ing keeps spying on Daniel and continuously shares all the gathered information with Bryce. However, Bryce becomes impatient and angrily tells Ing to finish the job quickly. He explains that if Patrick catches the thieves first, then he will lose the golden chance to buy the company cheaply. A small argument then breaks out between Bryce and Ing. At the same time, Patrick asks Bryce to delay their business deal for a few months, but Bryce directly refuses. Meanwhile, Sophia once again tries convincing Daniel to stop stealing perfumes, but Daniel refuses again. Sophia then warns him seriously. She says, starting next month, a brand new security system will be installed in the factory. After that, you won't be able to steal anything even if you want to. After saying this, she leaves. Meanwhile, Ing secretly follows Bryce and discovers his illegal relationship with Beatrice. He immediately records video evidence of the two together. After that, Ing calls Patrick while disguising his voice. He tells Patrick that he knows who is stealing the perfumes and where the stolen goods are hidden. In exchange for all the information, he demands 500,000 euros. To prove he's serious, Ing also sends Patrick the video of Beatrice and Bryce together. At the same time, Daniel receives a mysterious phone call, a major twist that will only be explained later in the story. The scene then shifts to Daniel speaking with his team. He tells everyone that the company already knows about the theft, but they still don't know who is responsible. Because of this, Daniel decides to pull off one final massive robbery. He explains that next Friday, perfume inventory worth 38 million euros will be transported to Paris in 2 trucks. Daniel's plan is to hijack both trucks at a gas station during transit and move the entire stock into their warehouse. Ing secretly informs Patrick about Daniel's entire plan. Then Friday night arrives. As planned, Daniel and his team seize both trucks and take them toward the warehouse. After reaching there, Daniel tries calling Patrick, but because of poor network signals, the call fails. At this moment, an important question arises. Why was Daniel trying to call Patrick? The answer is revealed later. Soon after, Ing also reaches the warehouse and secretly takes photos as evidence. But due to weak network coverage, he cannot send the pictures to Patrick. Suddenly, a light flashes nearby, exposing Ing's presence. Daniel and Scania immediately notice him and start chasing him to kill him. Somehow, Ing barely manages to escape, but in panic, he accidentally drops his phone. Daniel picks up the phone and discovers something shocking inside it. Ing had secretly made a $5 million deal with Patrick to help expose and arrest them all. The next morning, Bryce and his team arrive at Patrick's company to inspect the stock inventory. Bryce is extremely excited because he believes they will discover a huge shortage in inventory. If that happens, he'll be able to buy the entire Bruley company for less than half its value. But his happiness disappears instantly. When the inspection begins, they discover that the inventory is completely full. Shocked, Bryce asks his people to check everything again carefully, but they confirm that all the stock perfectly matches the official records. Having no other option left, Bryce is forced to finalize and sign the deal. Watching Bryce's situation, Patrick secretly smiles to himself. Now the biggest question appears. How did nobody notice the missing stock? How did Patrick manage all this? And how did Daniel already know about Ing? This is where the real twist is finally revealed. The mysterious phone call Daniel received earlier was actually from Patrick himself. Patrick had secretly called Daniel and asked him to meet near the church. When Daniel arrived there, Patrick confronted him directly. He revealed that he already had evidence against Daniel and demanded that all the stolen stock be quietly returned. Daniel then asked him why he hadn't gone to the police. That's when Patrick openly revealed everything: Bryce's deal, Beatrice's betrayal, and their secret affair. Daniel then admitted that the stolen stock had already been sold and could not be recovered anymore. And here we learn the biggest twist of all. Patrick himself was actually the mastermind behind the robbery of the 2 trucks. Patrick tells Daniel that if he and his team want to stay out of jail, they must help him with one final operation. Daniel must rob the company's perfume trucks during transit to Paris. As for the already missing inventory, Patrick comes up with a clever solution. He suggests filling empty perfume bottles with water and placing them among the missing stock. This way, when Bryce checks the inventory, he won't realize anything is missing. By the time Bryce eventually discovers the truth, Patrick would have already sold the company to him. At that point, Bryce alone would suffer the massive losses and be completely ruined. Hearing this plan, Daniel immediately agrees. That same night, Patrick secretly informs Daniel about Ing arriving near the warehouse. Afterward, the real perfumes are sent away to be sold on the black market. Meanwhile, Daniel and Patrick spend the entire night filling perfume bottles with water and placing them inside the warehouse stock so that no shortage can be detected during inspection. The next morning, we learn that Ing is killed by Scania's cousin. Later, Patrick says goodbye to Daniel and asks him about his future plans. Daniel replies that now that Bryce has been destroyed, he plans to buy back the company and restart it under a completely new name. In the final scene, Daniel sits peacefully in the courtyard with his family and Sophia. At that moment, a Scania truck removes the old Bruley banner hanging near their house. For the first time, there is nothing blocking the view of the church. Daniel silently looks toward it, realizing that he has finally fulfilled the promise he made to himself as a child. And with this emotional moment, the story comes to an end.